Welcome, everyone. I'm Tracy Fitzpatrick, and I'll be your moderator today. Thank you so much for joining us here at Netcom Learning, a market leader in promoting lifelong learning, training, and talent development solutions. We are very excited to host today's event, Best Practices for Designing a Secure Google Cloud Network. Presenting today's topic is Robert Hales. Robert is a dedicated software professional with demonstrated results in the creation of mission-critical enterprise applications for a variety of clients. He possesses 10 years of experience and has given hands-on technical solutions with a verified track record of designing and implementing secure, reliable, scalable, highly available, fault-tolerant, mission-critical enterprise applications. His key focus areas are AWS, solution architecture, integration and deployment, and cloud migration. And being a highly motivated and performance-driven software professional, he is the best fit for all types of learners, including the novice as well as experienced professionals. Now, please bear in mind that this is an overview of a very robust topic. We offer a collection of technical and business courses that can be tailored to your specific requirements. If you are interested in a further discussion, you can make an appointment with our learning consultants through our website at netcomlearning.com. Today's session is also being recorded, so you'll get free access to the recording in the next 24 hours via email. Netcom Learning helps customers build innovative learning organizations by achieving a smarter workforce, adapting to change, and driving growth. We do this with a broad catalog of offerings, developing customized learning plans, and our global delivery capabilities. Since 1998, we have been empowering organizations with our managed learning services to help them reach optimal performance results and address challenges. We do have 9 practice areas in which we specialize. They encompass people, process, and technology training. And today's presentation is from the security practice area. Netcom Learning offers a comprehensive training portfolio of courses for the topic being covered today. Our upcoming classes include various trainings on the given courses. You can also access a variety of marketing assets, such as the free training and blogs, by clicking on the available event handout. These offerings can be found with a simple search on our website at netcomlearning.com. Today's session will uncover the best practices to deploy and manage robust and secure network architectures in Google Cloud Program. In addition, participants will gain practical insights through essential concepts and practical demonstrations to elevate your cloud experience. And now I would like to give you a quick overview of the logistics before we get started. To begin with, you do have the option to view in full screen by clicking on the full screen button on the right side of the GoToWebinar viewer. Simply hit the escape key to exit the full screen. Everyone has been muted except for our presenters. Feel free to submit any questions you have for the presenters here in the questions pane, and we will address them at the end of the session. And to get the best out of today's events, we've included the slides, courses we talk about, and marketing assets in the handouts section of your GoToWebinar viewer. You may refer to them at any time to get a better understanding of today's topic. And we do realize that some of you may have to leave early and want to let you know that as you do leave the session today, you will be presented with a short survey. We would like to request for you to take a quick moment to participate in that survey. Your feedback really helps us understand your learning experience and improve our future sessions for you. The survey answers are measured on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 representing outstanding and 1 representing poor. And now I'd like to pass this over to our trainer to present today's topic. Hey, Robert, thank you so much for joining us today.
Welcome to this masterclass where we will be discussing the best practices for designing a secure Google Cloud network. My name is Robert Hales, and I am a Google authorized instructor, as well as a Amazon, Microsoft, and AI search certified trained instructor as well. Um, very happy to be with you guys here today and share some of the wealth of knowledge that Netcom has to offer, especially in regards to Google Cloud. So this class is going to be just a little tease of what Google has to offer. So we're going to talk about what is Google Cloud, talk a little bit about why we should move to Google Cloud, why we should utilize Google Cloud, and just the benefits of it, and as well as a little bit of the architecture and layout. The next thing we'll talk about is networking, where, because of course, to secure your network, you have to build a network. So we're going to discuss some very basic items like what are VPCs and subnets, but then we're also going to dig a little bit deeper into what my networks can do. Then we're going to end our session with how we can secure our network. We're going to talk about some really cool security products that make Google Cloud very unique. This is going to include things like IDS, Cloud Armor, and VPC firewall rules. After that, we'll do a quick recap and then we'll end with a Q&A session. All right, so with that, let's get started into what is Google Cloud. So, what is Google Cloud? Well, Google Cloud is first and foremost a cloud provider. What does that mean? This is a place where the public, so all of us, can be able to access compute, networking, and other devices and resources, generally speaking, over the internet, and share those resources with everybody. Now, all of these compute and network resources are organized and arranged by Google Cloud, or excuse me, by Google to create Google Cloud. And so with this, we have the first part. What is Google Cloud? It is a cloud provider. Now, Google has a history of creating a lot of great open source technologies like Kubernetes. And so, because it's created so much and has really, Google and Alphabet has completely transformed the way we work with the internet completely. Because if you have a question, what do? You Google it. Google is also open source friendly, which makes it easy to play with. So if you're used to utilizing on-prem a lot of open source material because it's very cost effective, then Google Cloud is one of the best clouds for that. It has a lot of open source features natively integrated. Now, this is different than other cloud providers because while, yes, they can use open source, there's a very strong preference to use their own materials, their own versions. But in Google Cloud, open source is generally preferred as the primary resource, which makes open cloud very flexible across multiple environments. Are you working hybrid, working in the cloud and in on-prem? Are you working multi-cloud, working with multiple cloud providers like AWS, Azure, IBM, Oracle, or others? Great, fantastic, because you can easily work with Google Cloud. Now, one thing that is very different is global. Now, hold on a second, Robert. Most cloud providers, if not all, are intrinsically global. They have data centers around the world. What makes Google different? That's a good question. Because Google does have over 40 regions across the globe. There's a lot of regions here in the United States that truly span from East Coast to West Coast. And We also have a lot of regions in almost every continent on the earth. So there's a great representation, but you're right. That isn't necessarily unique to Google. What is unique to Google, excuse me, it's global in the fact that it also creates a global network. Generally speaking, when we look at the architecture of most clouds, you're going to find a zone, a region, and then either broader location or just a broader geography. Now, most cloud providers like to keep networking done at a regional level, right? So generally spanning over typically 1 to 3 zones. And this is generally very acceptable, but Google thinks bigger. When we work in Google, we create a completely global network. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more in the next module. So we're going to hold off just for a little bit on that. Now, the next thing is the hybrid networking. Because remember, Google is very open source friendly. And in being open source friendly and working so well with others, there are a plethora of ways that we can create a connection between my on-prem and my Google Cloud, or again, cloud to cloud. There are a lot of really cool networking resources, and we'll talk about those a little bit later as well. And now, when we're talking about Google Cloud being open source friendly and utilizing open source resources first, well, open source generally doesn't charge for a whole lot, right? It's very community built. So those tend to be lower pricing. And so Google Cloud, as compared to other cloud providers, offers a lower cost solution. So you want to build in Google, it's very inexpensive, relatively speaking, to other cloud providers. You'll save money because there's less licensing, more work being done. So, great. We now hopefully understand what is Google Cloud. Why do we want Google Cloud? And just just understand a little bit of that background. If you'd like to learn more about Google Cloud and just generalities, and this is new information, please let us know. Go to netcomlearning.com or let us know in the chat, and we will be happy to find you a great trainer like myself that can help in your Google journey. But that being said, we are here because we want to learn a little bit more about networking. You've probably already have looked into Google Cloud, or maybe you're a student studying different cloud providers and you need a little bit more help on how networking can work, in Google Cloud. Well, let's jump into our next section, which is networking in Google Cloud. In here, we're going to talk more about what Google has to offer as far as its specifically its network resources. So we're going to dip our toe into the pool just a little bit more. Now, this being said, is this the end all be all? Are we going to discuss everything networking? No. This is a very short, limited course. This is a teaser, a taste of what we have to offer. If you'd like to learn more just specifically about networking, we do have an entire networking course that lasts about 2 to 3 days, and we go over the in depth what we can do within Google Cloud as far as our networking is concerned. All right, let's jump in. So, when we're talking about networking, the very first thing that we're going to talk about is the foundation, the keystone to all Google networking, which is my VPC. VPC, what is a VPC? A VPC is a virtual private cloud. This is going to be our private section of Google Cloud that we can utilize to work within Google Cloud, which we're also going to refer to as a network. Now, when we're utilizing my network, excuse me, when utilizing my network, there's a couple of things. First, we've already kind of alluded at this, but the network is global. Whoa, what do you mean? It means that when I set up my network, it's going to span every single region that Google has, which in turn means that if I want to break up my network, which we generally do, we work with a network and subnetworks. My subnetworks are broken up into regions and they span a singular region. Okay, now that's pretty revolutionary if you've already worked with other cloud providers. This isn't how it's normally done. And no, Google doesn't do things the normal way. They do things very progressively, very forward thinking. So this network is global, but the global network is interesting in another fact. It doesn't have an IP address range. What? It doesn't have an IP address range, Rob? How does it work then? Because we have to put an IP somewhere, right? Because that's why we have a network. That's why we have my VPC. We set the network at a subnet level. So every region that you want to utilize, you can set up your own network CIDR range that you want. And the CIDR range is basically saying, hey, I want to use IP 1 to 255 or what have you. Now, that being said, this allows us to create global networks very quickly because in a network, we can talk to all the other subnets. Well, that means I can talk across regions very easily with minimal work. And that's fantastic. And we get to do all this communication across the globe over Google's backbone, which is dedicated to, of course, Google. And this is a cloud provider that started out as a private industry just trying to provide a service. Google.com, right? YouTube, and so many other great Alphabet products. There are, I almost want to say, billions of users who utilize Google. In fact, it has become a verb in several languages that I'm aware of. And so this network is massive and redundant. And we in Google Cloud have access to that massive network so we can communicate without fear of loss. But is it secure? Yes. When we utilize my network, we have our route tables and we can control who we want, which subnets we want to talk to each other. Maybe we don't want certain subnets to communicate. Maybe we don't want certain resources to be able to communicate with certain protocols, ports, or just other tagged resources. And so there's a lot of great tools that are available for VPCs. And remember, this is just the fundamental piece. So now let's talk about what VPCs can do. Well, VPCs, we don't have to build a firewall. What? Yeah, firewalls are built in. So we can set up firewall rules or policies we'll talk about that later. But we can set rules or policies to say we want this traffic, but we don't want this traffic. You can set up based off of tags whether you want certain rules to apply to certain what we call GCE or Google Compute Engine instances. You can choose which instances are allowed to or have to follow by certain rules and are allowed to do certain things, or if they are going to be denied. Now, with my VPCs as well, I can build private and secure connections. This means that I can do very cool things like set up private service access and make sure that all communication outgoing from my VPC to other Google resources stays on the backbone of Google Cloud and does not go out towards the internet. So we don't even have to risk potential exposure to the internet, keeping our connections private and secure. Now, last section, we talked about hybrid and multi-cloud connections. There are a lot of great ways that we can connect, generally speaking, and I'm only going to talk about two basic ones as they pertain to this topic. The first one is going to be utilizing our cloud VPN. Now, with VPN, there's two ways to do it. There's my classic, and then there's my highly available. This basically is going to create a VPN tunnel, which is going to be an encrypted passage that goes over the internet between Google Cloud and your on-prem environment, where you'll have routers set up and ready to, or gateway set up, ready to welcome the either static or dynamic traffic that we are going to send over. Now, this is great, but offers a relatively limited amount of bandwidth. And it's also going to suck up our internet bandwidth. If that's fine, right? Because this will take anywhere about a gigabit, a little bit more than a gigabit per second per tunnel. So we're looking at anywhere between 2 to 3 gigabits per second combined between multiple tunnels, but that might not be enough, because if I look at my own home internet, I have access to 1 or 2 gigabits per second, and I teach classes and I play video games, and it's not quite enough sometimes for me. So for us businesses, we need to be able to move a lot more, right? We need a bigger pipe. So what do? This brings us to the second product, which is Interconnect. Interconnect is going to be a dedicated and physical connection between you and Google Cloud. Now, with that, there are multiple types of interconnect. We have our dedicated interconnect. This is where Google is going to lay down that physical cable between you and Google Cloud. So you work with Google directly, you sign a contract with them, and you make sure that you meet certain requirements, especially like distance to the right facilities. Now, the benefit of this is you have a choice. Do I want 10 gigabits per second, or do I want up to 100 gigabits per second? Or not up to, excuse me, it's either 10 or 100. That's the choice. Now, if you can't meet Google's requirements, if you need something a little bit more flexible, there's also Partner Interconnect. And Partner Interconnect offers up to 10 gigabits per second, but it can also go all the way down to 50 megabits per second. Now, you might not need 50 megabits per second, but just depending on how much you need and the flexibility, Partner Interconnect offers a lot of flexibility. And so here you'll work with someone like Verizon or AT&T or MTN or not any, but there's a select amount of vendors that work with Google to create that connection for you. So this is how we connect my on-prem to Google Cloud. Now, Robert, your mouse hasn't changed, but it's under here with multi-cloud. I didn't hear how I can move over to, I don't know, AWS or Azure. Well, what we can do is we can build a multi-cloud physical connection between Google and AWS or Microsoft Azure. And this is provided for by Google or contracted through by Google. So you will build a connection, and there's a whole wizard to help you set this up, to build a physical link between Google and the other cloud provider of your choice. This allows you to have dedicated secure connections, or dedicated connections, excuse me, between Google Cloud and AWS or Azure. All right. So I understand there's a lot of information coming. Remember, if you'd like, please feel free to ask questions. We're going to save questions for the end. And yeah, please make note and we will answer those as quickly as possible. Great. So I'm sold. Google seems pretty great. It is. But I'm going to pull a Billy Mays here. But wait, there's more. With VPCs, there's also a way that we structure how we communicate with other VPCs or not communicate. So we have a shared and peered VPC. Now, I'm going to first talk about a peered VPC because it's pretty simplified. And then we'll talk a little bit more about shared. So my peered VPC might be a familiar idea. So peered is great because whether we're going across organizations or projects, or we're going across multiple networks within a project, we can create a peering connection. Now, this peering connection does have some limitations. We cannot have overlapping IPs. We have to make sure that the two networks we want to peer have a different or don't have any overlap. Now, this allows us to have kind of the separation. It allows us to control one network and somebody else to control another, which is good if we're working across organizations. But what if we're in the same organization? What if for either billing purposes or just making sure that only certain teams can access certain resources, we wanted to separate, I don't know, our front end and back end, but want them to share the same network? This is where shared VPC comes in. With a shared VPC, we're going to have what we call a host project. And and just as a little recap, projects are where we're going to host all of our resources. This is what controls our billing at the lowest level. And so we have resources that fit into projects, projects that fit into folders, folders that fit within either other folders, and then finally on top we have an organization. Now, with my shared VPC, I'm going to have a host project that is going to have my VPC. It's going to host the network. Then other projects, which we call service projects, are going to connect to this shared project. And with this shared project, um, we have a benefit of having now a central network administration. We are able to control the firewalls. We're able to control where traffic can go with my route table. We're able to control how we work and utilize with the singular network versus peered, where we don't have control over what my peered network can do on the other side. So, which one is better? It depends on the use case. If I only have a single project, I can't use shared. Shared is inherently a more of an organizational tool where we are working across multiple projects. Whereas peered, it's more flexible. You can have it within a single project or multiple projects. And again, we just can't control what they do on the other side, and we cannot have overlapping IPs. And one more thing is we cannot have transitive peering. So if you have A talking to B and C talking to B, A cannot inherently, through those two connections, communicate with C. We would have to build another peer connection to create a full mesh net. All right. So with that, that kind of puts us at the end of what we're going to talk about VPCs. Can VPCs do more? Absolutely, they can. Um, if you, again, want to learn more about networking, please contact us. Let us know, hey, I got to see Rob in this masterclass on building our best practices on building a secure network on Google Cloud. I want to learn more, and we will connect you with the many great trainers we have here at Netcom Learning. Now, with that said, let's talk about our network. We've built it great, but is it secure? Not really. We haven't talked in any depth about security. Okay, so let's take a quick 5-minute break, and then I'll start on the remaining topics after the break.
Sure, we are now going to take a 5-minute break, but before we do that, we are going to launch a quick poll that we want to invite you to participate in. Doing so helps us know how we can better serve you by telling us who might be interested in more information or in taking some additional training. In addition, we have a lot more informative webinars coming up, so please go to netcomlearning.com/webinars in order to register.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's continue where we left off. So, now what we're going to do is we're going to discuss several products that can help us secure our network in different ways. Because when we're working on security, do we just want a single layer? No. With your home, we don't necessarily just want to have a single lock on my doorknob. That's not very secure. So it's not very strong. So maybe I'll put in a deadbolt. But again, that's securing the doors. How can I create better security, layered security? I could do things like install a camera that's motion detected. I can hire a company to monitor my windows and doors to make sure that I'm safe. And then, of course, we have other community services like police officers and fire departments and wonderful things like that to help against a variety of different concerns that could happen within our house. Now, this is our home. We also want to secure our networks with multiple layers. Now, let's talk about our first layer or first type of protection. This is going to be cloud firewall. Now, if you remember, this is something that is natively within Google Cloud. And as you can remember, our cloud firewall is our cloud network is built to be global. So of course, our firewalls are going to be built globally. Now, we're going to focus here on just a little bit more on the rule side for a second, but firewalls can come in either policies or rules. We'll talk a little bit more about that on the next slide. So these are very powerful resources. They are also stateful. So they remember inbound and outbound. But with my cloud firewall, I can set rules based off of whether they're inbound or outbound, allow or deny. I can set it for all instances. I can set it for instances by tags that network tags that I attach. Now, if you say, well, Rob, aren't tags just metadata? No, in Google Cloud, tags are going to be network related. When we're talking about the metadata, which is a key value pair that we're going to assign, for example, name, web server, department, IT, these are going to be called labels here in Google Cloud. Now, back to my firewall rules. We can organize by tags, but we can also say, hey, look, I want to block certain ports, certain protocols. I want to block them on these IP addresses or allow traffic coming from these IP addresses. So you want to make sure that your on-prem environment can access. Great. We can build a rule that says, okay, if you have this network tag, then we're going to allow traffic coming from 10.0.0.0/16, which is our on-prem network. Now, this is good, great, but how do we ensure that it's working? Well, we have great monitoring and logging capabilities. You can set up advanced enhanced monitoring and logging to ensure that traffic is going the way you want it to. And if there's issues, we can be made aware as we use uh, whichever tools we like. There is Cloud Operations, which is a Google managed service, which offers logging and monitoring, debugger, and many other fantastic tools. Or again, we can use fun tools that we already use already, like Prometheus or Splunk or whomever your favorite uh, monitoring service is. And so this is all within Cloud Firewall. Pretty cool. And these are assigned and built automatically into my VPCs, into my networks. Okay, so Rob, you mentioned something about policies and rules. What are they? What are the difference? Well, let's keep going with rules. So, oh, excuse me, there we go. My mouse is not seeming to work. That's not good. So with my firewalls and with my firewall rules, these are going to be held to a individual VPC network. So this is great if I'm working within a single project. And so I handle everything within that single project, and it allows me to get fine granular control over my network traffic for the very specific VPC in which I will be utilizing. So if I say, hey, look, I don't want this network access to port 80, or excuse me, these instances on these instances on my network to access port 80, but I want these instances to have access to port 80. Great. We can do that with firewall rules. Now, as far as inheritance, there is none, and we're going to talk about that a little later on with policies. But for rules, there's no inheritance, and my global application, of course, is limited to my individual VPC that I will be utilizing. So those are my firewall rules. Basically, they're only set to a single VPC. Well, Robert, we're in an organization. How do I ensure that certain guidelines are being held across the organization or within major parts of the organization? And that's where policies come into shine. They hang out at the organization or folder level. This means that within an organization level, it affects lottie-dottie everybody. Every single network VPC subnet instance is affected by a firewall policy at the organizational level. Now, remember, below organizations are folders, and folders can be nested within each other. Then we have projects and resources. So folders, generally speaking, are probably going to have more than one project. And they're probably going to have a plethora of different VPCs within them. So a folder wide policy is going to affect all underlying folders and projects, and thus all VPCs underneath that folders or projects. So this is managed now at the organization or at the folder level. This is going to ensure that we have consistency across our organization or folder, which is why this is important. It gives us the broad rules. We don't necessarily say allow or deny. These are more like, well, you will, but these are more like bumpers. They're meant to be to keep us within certain parameters, and the firewall rules will fill in for the firewall policies to ensure granularity. Now, as we've alluded to with the inheritance, is that there's a hierarchical inheritance system. So if I put something at a folder level, it's going to roll down to any subfolders and to any projects in those folders or subfolders. So if I set an organizational policy saying no port 80, that's going to affect everything. And if I set that organizational policy and then at a folder I say no 443 either, then all the underlying infrastructure, so the underlying folders and projects, are going to have no port 80, my organizational firewall policy, and they're going to have no 443 access based off of the folder policy, the folder firewall policy that we've created. And so this lets us have those guidelines, those bumpers between all of my varying resources across an entire organization. All right, pretty cool. Now, this is just like locking our front door. It's good. It's very good. It's a great start. It's what everybody. It's the baseline. It's not the end all be all. We want more security as we see fit. So, how do we identify threats in my environment? I'm glad you asked. There's a couple of ways that we can do this. So, one of the ways we can do this is going to be with my security command center. This is going to allow me. Oh, well, we'll talk a little bit more about that later, actually. So, my security command center is a great central place to overview my network and overall security. Now, I also have Cloud Armor. This is great for very large attacks against my environment. And then for threat detection, for smart threat detection using Palo Alto, we have Cloud IDS. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about these tools in just a little bit more depth. So, my security command center is a central location where I can look at my cloud assets and we can see, are there any potential risks? And this can be held at an organizational level. So I can see across my environment and see what's going on. If there's an issue, we can talk with it. And my security command center, it's a command center. So when you think of command centers, if you're like me, grew up watching Mission Impossible, Jason Bourne, James Bond, right? Those big command centers with all those cool screens and the fancy phones where they can call the Army, the Navy, or they're calling in nuclear strikes or special teams, right? There's a lot of people plugged into that security command or to that command center. Same with the security command center. We can use a variety of different Google and third-party security products to help us detect and respond to the threats happening within our environment. All right. So, Security Command Center is a fantastic tool to give you a bird's eye view of your security environment. Great. Next, we have Cloud Armor. So, Cloud Armor helps us attack, or not attack, being attacked from DDoS attacks. And for those of you who don't know, DDoS is a distributed denial of service. This is where you have a perpetrator command a selection of primary bots that control an army of bots, secondary bots, that basically their only job is to overwhelm your website, application, whatever it may be, with fake requests. So it spins up your instances, overloads them. It can cause lots of damage, both to reputation and to cost. Your resources will just be overwhelmed. You'll find your spending will go through the roof if you're not careful about scaling and things like that. And with Cloud Armor, we can recognize those DDoS attacks and be able to stop them. But Robert, I'm a big company. Obviously, Cloud Armor can't stop massive attacks. You're wrong. Cloud Armor can and has stopped massive attacks. In fact, in August 2 years ago, I believe, there was a massive attack with, if I got my numbers right, 27 million requests per second. So every single second, 27 requests coming in. 27 million requests. That is pretty much what Wikipedia is getting in about a year, right? That's a lot of requests every second. And Cloud Armor was able to defend against such a massive attack. Right? And we can set rules to help us mitigate these attacks. So Cloud Armor, fantastic tool to protect us against massive attacks. Okay. Now, this is good. Got our security center, our security command center. We've got Cloud Armor. Now, we also have a fun tool, and this is more about threat detection. This is IDS. So Cloud IDS is, and that's your intrusion detection system, is a threat, is there for threat detection. It utilizes machine learning to look through what you have and inspects your traffic to see if there's any type of malicious activity. And now this is pretty cool because it's not just a Google, not that Google brand is bad, right? Like when you go to the store brand is good, but sometimes there's just some really great name brand stuff. And we all love a name brand item. Now, I'm going to drop a name, Palo Alto. Now, Palo Alto is fantastic and is a well-known and renowned networking company that offers a large variety of networking services, from obviously security to actually having networking routers and a lot of other really fun networking tools. I don't want to get distracted because Palo Alto has some amazing stuff. And so having a Palo Alto resource built into Google Cloud means you are protected. It means you, with IDS, with Cloud Armor, with my security command center, and with firewalls, rules, and policies, that's the equivalent of me having my doors locked, that motion camera, sensor camera, having the police around, and ensuring that I have like a company like ADT or something protecting my home. Here is how we have that layered security. And now you know some of the best practices for securing your network on Google Cloud. So in this masterclass, we have gone over a lot of different information. And so even though this was relatively short, this is again just the sample. If you'd like to learn more, please let us know. Let us know how we can help and how we can address any networking, compute, or or AI concerns that you might have with Google Cloud, and we will find you a class and a trainer that fits your needs. So in this course, we talked about what is Google Cloud? Why do we have Google Cloud? We talked about networking. What are VPCs? What are they made of? How do they work? And we ended with securing our network and talked about different resources that we can utilize, like Cloud IDS, which offered that Palo Alto, remember? And we talked about my security command center. We talked about Cloud Armor, which blocked against DDoS, and my firewall rules, which helped us create a granular and overarching control over my environments. So with that, Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being here and listening and learning more about Google Cloud. Again, my name is Rob Hales, and I'm very happy to have been able to spend this time with you.
Thank you, Robert. That was most informative. Now, I know everyone's looking forward to the Q&A session, so go ahead and start putting your questions into the questions panel. And while you do that, I'd like to give the presentation rights over to Ifla, our product marketing person, who's going to introduce you to some of our fantastic promotions and webinar-related courses.
Thank you, Tracy. Insightful session. I believe everyone must have learned something new today or would have been able to brush up their skills around Google Cloud technology.
Firstly, I'm excited to announce that Netcom Learning is now an authorized training partner for Google Cloud, making us your go-to destination for cloud skilling. With this milestone, we are proud to offer comprehensive training across the three leading cloud technologies globally: Microsoft Azure, AWS Cloud, and now Google Cloud. So, Netcom Learning, is your one-stop shop for cloud skilling. I would also quickly like to take you through some of our hand picked resources, which we think will immensely help in accelerating your Google Cloud skilling journey. This document here that I'm presenting has been shared with you all in the handout section of GoToWebinar panel. You can download this document and access all the resources and browse all the offerings we have curated for you. So, first up is the list of our recommended courses, which we feel will best suit your learning journey after attending our masterclass. So, all these courses here are hyperlinked. Feel free to go through them post event and check out the course descriptions and prerequisites and the value it can add to you and your team skill sets. Additionally, we have curated a blend of resources, including our upcoming and on demand events, as well as some informative and educational blogs. So you can make the most of these resources to gain extensive knowledge on the Google Cloud topics they cover. Now, next up, we are offering Google Cloud Fundamentals course, which is usually priced at $575, but we are offering this absolutely free of cost. So this is the full one-day course in which you and your teams will learn how to use Google Cloud services and tools effectively and gain a solid understanding of the core components of Google Cloud platforms. You will also get hands-on practice through practical labs, allowing you to apply your new skills right away. So this is a full day course, unlike our master classes and webinars. So we have limited seats available for this, and you can request enrollment by clicking here on this button. So submit your registrations to us as soon as possible, and our team will get back to you with the confirmations. Uh, Also, here I would like to inform you that today's masterclass session is being recorded. So, in case you want to refer back to any of the topics that were covered by the trainer today, we'll be sharing the recording link with you through emails, and also you can access the link here on the handout so that you can revisit the session and learn at your own pace. Now, apart from our virtual sessions, you can also catch all the relevant updates related to IT and business training on our social media handles. So please feel free to follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel for all the latest updates. Our official pages and channels are linked here on the icons. Finally, if you have any suggestions regarding the topics you would like us to cover in our upcoming webinars and masterclasses, please don't hesitate to send us a direct message or leave a comment on our social media posts, or you can just simply email us at google@netcomlearning.com. We would definitely try to come up with the sessions on your suggested topics. Thank you once again for joining us today. You guys have a good one. Thank you.
Thanks so much for guiding us through that information, Ifla. And now we're going to go ahead and jump right into our question and answer session. First question for the day is, do I need to create any routers or load balancers to network across regions in a VPC?
That is a good question. If we're going across VPCs, then yes, absolutely. But if we're in the same VPC, no, I have my route table that will handle all traffic within. Now, does that mean we don't need load balancers to distribute traffic across like multiple instances within the same VPC? No. But if I just need to go from one region to another, that's handled intrinsically within my route table inside of my VPC. That is a fantastic question.
Let's take another question. What can you use network tags for?
All right. So remember, my network tags are tools to identify resources and specifically identify identify these resources and assign them firewall rules that they will have to adhere to. Now, this is great. So if I have a production environment that I need to have access to the internet, so port 80 or port 443, I can set up network tags that allow traffic coming from port 80 or port 443. Now, my backend, or let's say we're running our instances on a compute engine instance, then do I want that accessible by the internet? No. I can create another rule, set another set of tags to remove access from port 80 or port 443 and ensure that that traffic is blocked. So network tags are great for helping us specify certain resources from being allowed or denied access to certain ports or protocols.
Last question for this session is, what steps are involved in setting up a secure and scalable network architecture on Google Cloud?
And that's a great question. And at a first glance, it might seem pretty obvious, right? Like we talked about it. But the first thing that we need to do is before we build anything is plan. I've worked with a lot of great companies over the years, over many different cloud providers, and there's been some companies who just decide we're going to jump in feet first, we're going to build environments, and then they run into these growing pains. There wasn't any plan set up. And so the first thing you need to do is plan. Where is your company now? Where has your company been before, and where do we think it's going to go? And then with that, we can start building up, okay, what kind of IP ranges do we need? What regions do we think we're going to need to have subnetworks in? And from there, we can say, okay, great, we have our network in place. Then we can figure out what are we securing and how much is it worth to secure. So should we use firewalls? Should we lock our doors? Absolutely. Absolutely. That should go without question. But then do I want to pay for more advanced versions of Cloud Armor? Do I want to pay for IDS? If our information is worth securing, then yes. If it's not, then we don't. And the answer is not always going to be yes. Do we always want to spend money? And no, sometimes it's just not worth it. That being said, security should always be on the forefront. If we are going to pinch pennies, do your best not to pinch pennies on security, because you pinched pennies now, you'll pay dollars later when information gets leaked and you get fined millions of dollars for something that might have cost you hundreds or thousands of dollars. It's just always better to be secure. So once we have our plan, we start implementing and finding the resources we want. and then we implement those resources to ensure that they offer security while also making sure that we have the ability to be flexible and change as the future progresses. All right. Thank you again, everyone. This has been a fantastic masterclass. Thank you for your time and your energy being spent here and for those great questions. I look forward to seeing you all in future classes. And with that, enjoy the rest of your day.
Once again, I want to remind you that as you leave this session today, you will be presented with a short survey. We would like to request for you to help us by taking a quick moment to participate in that survey. Your feedback really helps us understand your learning experience as we are constantly looking at how we can improve our future sessions. The survey answers are measured on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 representing outstanding and 1 representing poor. We want to thank all of you for joining us today, and if you do come up with any additional questions, feel free to send them to webinar@netcomlearning.com at any time. We hope that you found today's webinar informative, and we look forward to seeing you back here with us soon. Feel free to tell your friends and colleagues about our webinars and other courses. Have a great day, everyone.